welcome back to the blog. We're out here, we're getting posted up. I got a new gyrocopter. Hopefully that will make the videos a little bit better. Today we have on the surgery table here custom John Deere 317/140. So I want to go over a little bit about what this tractor is, what it isn't, and why I did it and what it is. So the reason why it's on this lift table is mostly because the rear tires that are on it are not what I wanted on it. But if I can figure out how to use this gyrocopter, I'm a bit of a hoss when it comes to technology. But so we'll talk about these. We'll get them on the tractor. Let's get started. All right, so let's get these wheels off and then we'll talk about what we're putting on along with what we're putting on. All right, so now that we have the old wheel off, let's talk about what we're putting on. So this, not that, this is one of the hardest pieces to find for this whole thing. This is a Carlisle super lug. Back in the early 2000s, and I say that like it's not 2005 this year current, you used to be able to buy these in 23 1050, 23 850 6x12, and the Big Daddy 26 12x12s. The idea is that 26 12x12s are factory on John Deere 400s, 420s, 430s, as well as obviously the front mount mowers. Shout out Jimmy Keenan, Ryan Reynolds of Garden Tractors. The idea is that somebody at some point in the early 2000s figured out that you could put 26 12x12s on a 140, a 300 series, that type of thing. The idea is that you could get more ground clearance, they are higher flotation. These things are basically big balloons. So you can see the tread design on these are pretty straight cut. A lot of guys use them for pulling nowadays, but you cannot get these anymore. I'd say probably around 2010-ish, give or take, which is weird because that's 5 years in the future because we're living in 2005. But they stopped making them, and you can only get nowadays. They kind of replaced them with True Powers, which I'm trying to think who made them, and then Carlisle bought them and their design basically, and so now you can only get Carlisle True Powers, which are good tires. However, for me, I think it's 2005. I listened to Kid Rock on CD. I had to have these things for what this tractor is, which we'll get into a little bit later. So that's what these are. That's why I have them on here. I don't think that they're any better or worse than a Firestone 23 degree or True Power or whatever, but that's what we have. That's what I like. And then these bad Larrys, these are wheel horse wheel weights, which, little known fact, these fit over the factory hydraulic hub, hydrostatic hub on a hydrostatic garden tractor. So you don't have to take the hub off, put the weight over the axle, put the hub back on, and then put the tire on, and then bolt these back up. So if you didn't know, you do now. These fit over this, and you don't have to worry about them. The other thing is a lot of people use Bolin's wheel weights, which have a hole in the center, but they're not quite as big. This one here is wallered out pretty good. A Bolin's wheel weight will fit over a gear drive hub if you take it off and do the whole dance commotion that I don't feel like doing. So I found a set of these. We're going to put these on the insides, then put the tire on, and then put a set of 50-pound John Deere wheel weights on the outside. The fun part is getting these things all lifted up here by myself, but we'll see what we can do. All right, now that we're back, you can see I have a set of 50-pound John Deere wheel weights on the outside. I don't have the tires filled, so you can see the difference between a 23-10-50 Firestone and a 26 12x12 Goodyear True Power. Bigger is better. I say 6x12s do just as well, but that's up to the person using them. You can see the wheel horses on the inside. They don't interfere with anything. They don't stick out really past the wheel. They weigh about 50 pounds, which is just as much as the outside ones. So basically I have a double stack, but I do not have the extra width sticking out past here. So this set specifically is on a gyrocopter's going crazy. This set of tires is on a set of, I believe, John Deere 1050 10.5-inch wide wheels. You don't have to. I don't suggest it. However, this tractor I had to. I'll explain a little bit of that in a minute. The idea is that you can put these 26 12x12 tires on the factory wheels, which would be the same as the 23 1050s, which would be factory on a 317 or a 140. They balloon a little bit, but the offset allows you to actually still use a mower deck. I have a 317 that I mow with. I use 26 12x12 tires, and I still use a mower deck with it, but I use factory 8.5-inch wide wheels, which would have came factory standard on 1050 tires. The more you know, that's what it is. I'm gonna go out here and do the other side and hopefully not struggle as much as I did on this side. All right, got both sides tires on the back. Everything's good. Had a little bit of an issue like normal, which is always a fun time, is getting these outside ones on, because you have to put these bolts through the wheel, then put the inside wheel weight on, tighten up the inside wheel, put the wheel onto the tractor, and then get the bolts through this, but still be able to pull them, but you don't have access from the backside. So that's what I was pulling with the little magnet. Get them on, pull the weight out to put tension on it, tightens things up. So it's ready to go. Obviously we already went over why I have the 26 12x12s. Basically this was the cool stuff to have in 2005, which is the current year. A good friend, Jim Furno in Virginia, he was one of the few guys that did it at the beginning, and then it kind of took off back in the Weekend Freedom Machines era of garden tractor collecting. He had a bunch of tractors they had these on, so that's one of the reasons why I wanted them on this. So take the seat cover off. So this is, or was, a John Deere 317. Basically what it started as, I got it from a good friend, T. Shep, up in New York on Shelter Island. Shout out. He sold me this thing and it was an absolute pile. I was told it was junk, and he was not lying. I didn't really care, but at the same time, the thing was pretty rough to start with. So I ended up having to get like a whole second tractor just to do this. But the fender pan on that one was all rotted out in here. Even the dash tower was rotten. So I ended up with a second 317 and a 314 just to even do this. So took that tractor apart, took the hood off, whole hood upright, pulled the motor out, scrapped all of it, scraped, and started from there, cleaned it all up, pressure washed it, got it as clean as I could. A 317 obviously has a KT17 opposed twin air-cooled motor in it from the factory. When I took that out, basically the frame was like this, but it was notched here, and I filled that in. Actually, if you go back through some of my videos, shameless plug, you can watch me grind on this tractor when I first started on it with the Milwaukee die grinder video. That tool helped me out, so feel free to go check that out on the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, YouTubies. So the idea is that I wanted this to look like a 140, so to fill it in is simple. I just measured down to the notch, put a piece of flat bar in there, welded it all, ground it smooth, filled in with a couple welds where the holes were for the hood uprights on a 317, because they were mounted on the outside of the frame. A 140 goes through the frame and mounts on the inside. So I had to re-drill these 2 holes and fill in the couple other previous holes, but otherwise everything else is the same as a 317 to a 140. This whole front setup is the same, and once I put the hood uprights on, I could put a 140 grill, headlight panel, hood, everything on. So at that point, it looked like a 140 from a normal person's perspective. Then to get the hood to fit back here, it obviously works up front with the hood hinges, and I did use the early style hood hinges just because it's a little bit more safer. So to get it to fit here, I thought I was just going to be able to plop it right down onto a 317 plastic dash piece. That does not work. That would have been way too easy. So to make it work, I actually took this whole plate off by cutting it along this seam and laying it down at a different angle, and I took about an inch out so I could lower it down to fit the hood. So now it closes and looks just like a 140. So obviously on a 140, your hydro lever sticks out the side and is next to your hood, and this is a 317, so it comes through the dash. So when I moved the dash panel, your location of this slot moved slightly. So I had to modify this handle a little bit inside for the linkage. But basically from here down is all factory 317. It wasn't really that difficult to modify or change. And then this is a piece of black anodized, I think 040 thick aluminum, basically just in place of the plastic because the plastic wouldn't fit. 140 amp meter, choke in the same location as a 317, throttle lever with the knob just like a 140, headlight switch, black knob like a 140, 140 key switch decal with the 1988 approved Landis Brothers keychain because clout. So I also wanted to not only keep track of the hours, have to meter your hours, but also because it's a 140, I wanted it to have an hour meter like a 140. So I used a Hamilton watch company made in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, hour meter. And then I actually bought a whole 314 specifically for this irrigation spinner knob because these are super rare. Those are also found on 1982 Mack CF fire trucks. They're extremely hard to find, the irrigation pump spinner knobs. They're worth probably upwards of 7 figures. I'm not trying to brag, I'm just saying I have one on this. So once I had the frame figured out, the fender pans is just a stock 317, but I'm using a 317 gas tank, all factory, but it's nice because I don't have a gas tank up here. No one cares about safety, but I have a lot more fuel capacity. The whole idea of making it look like a 140 is that I wanted to make more or less the ultimate plow day tractor. This idea came from just years of collecting and talking with other collectors about what could have been and what was or what wasn't, and using close to factory parts, but also something that John Deere might have made as a prototype or something of that nature, but also with modern stuff, and to make it look like a 140, but be the ultimate plow day tractor. So to do that, I talked a lot with Rob Kruger, who is the founder of Weekend Freedom Machines, which again, back in 2005, which is this current year, he started, along with Mike Horn, this website, which more or less was one of the biggest garden tractor websites and forums back in the day. He always wanted to do this and never had the parts, never had the time, and never did it, and just left it as an idea. So I decided I wanted to do it for myself and make it kind of a dream into a reality. So along with having all the 140 hood uprights and hood and all that, I located and found a 4-legged headlight panel off of a 68, 110, 112, 120, well, not a 120, but a 140. I like this style and design better. I think it looks a lot cooler with the gray silver background around the decal and the edge. These look like factory light bulbs. I usually try to put in restoration quality tractors that Westinghouse bulbs instead of GE, because you can't get them anymore. However, this is LED, so superbrightled.com, please sponsor me. The idea is that you can put those in. It looks factory, but when they're on, it's a whole lot brighter. So we're going to turn the key on and put the lights on. So that's brighter than my Future. And at night for plowing, they work great. Also, this is 140 style taillights with LED bulbs in it. So again, just want to be brighter, want to be seen for plow day if we ever do something at night. A replica heavy duty air cleaner. For those that don't know, this goes inwards. A 140 one goes outwards here. This is just a 317 canister. This is not a real heavy duty air cleaner. I made the bracket and canister look like that with heavy duty air cleaner decal from hapcoparts.com. Again, please sponsor me. Everything's basically designed to make it look like a 140 with a heavy duty air cleaner with an hour meter on the steering column. And then bigger wheels and tires on the front. These are 18850 Vertesteins off of a 400, 420, 430 on one of those wheels. Again, to match the back. The idea is to get more ground clearance for in plowing with stubble. You get a little bit more clearance underneath the tractor to allow more trash underneath you. So along with starting with 317, the main reason why I did so is because I knew on a 140, your steering is all up inside in the middle of the tractor underneath the frame. So there's not a lot of room. On a 317, you have a shaft coming out of the frame into the frame and then connects with a small drag link up to the steering column. The idea with this is all your steering linkage is from here back and comes outside the frame, and you have this tie rod out here. The biggest thing that I wanted this for is to have the ability to bolt on a Brantly power steering kit. So in the 70s and 80s, you could buy a Brantly power steering kit from the John Deere dealer and bolt it onto your 317. And it basically gave you power steering. It's a power assist kit, basically. It's not a full power steering, so you don't change the steering column. This whole unit bolts on using factory bolt locations behind. It works really well, and they almost steer almost too nice, to be honest. It's like pinky driving. The problem with these is they take up a lot of room. So when you put big 26s on, there's not a lot of room in here. As you can tell, there's not a lot of room for tire chains, mud, or anything like that. So that's also why I had to go with the 10.5 inch wide wheel, because of the offset allowed me to use the power steering kit with the big tires. a lot of times, like true powers on 8.5-inch wheels will not fit on the in position with the power steering kit. You can put them on the out position, but I try to put them on the in position. On this one, I didn't have much of a choice, so I put. The idea with this is to make it look like a 140, but plow like a 318. So you have a big gas tank, power steering just like that, just like a 318, but you don't have much power with a single cylinder Kohler. Or do you? So what I did was I sourced and found an 18 horse Kohler K361. They were only made a couple years. They're kind of hard to find. Some pulling guys use them. If they were smart pulling guys, they would just use a 16, but they're kind of neat. I like old cars, tractors, boats, anything with a motor that's cool. Back in the early 20s and 30s, it was very common to take like Ford Model Ts and put overhead valve conversions, whether that's a custom design from a aftermarket company, or some people even use like 24 Chevy overhead valve heads and with an adapter plate, put them on a Model T. They have a lot of head gasket issues, as some may know. The idea here is that's basically what Kohler did. So they took a 16 horse short block, machined all the valves off of this side of it, and put an overhead valve head on it. So in this box is rocker arms and push rods that go down to your cam and comes up and opens and closes your valve. So your carb's in the same location as like a 16, but there's an actual cast aluminum intake manifold, more or less, that comes around inside the fan shroud into the back of the head, and then your exhaust comes right out the front. I made the custom exhaust. I wrapped it in heat wrap, basically to keep some of the heat down on the inside of the underneath the hood. This is all stock. There's nothing really crazy machining wise or like billet heads and all that stuff. I just wanted a stock 18 horse. It sounds great. This was actually a short block that was new old stock NOS, and the idea with it is that I found the whole thing that started this is I bought a head off of Facebook Marketplace, and I bought one singular head and I built the whole motor around that. I found actually an NOS short block and had my good buddy Josh Devon of Devon's Classic Tractors. Check him out, classictractors.com. All sorts of swag, all sorts of calendars, all sorts of stuff on there. Again, shameless plug. He built this motor. It runs great. Had no issues with it so far. Not that I put many hours on it, but thing runs great. I built the custom exhaust, put it in here. I cut all the 317 frame mounts under, like in the middle, out of it. I measured top to bottom for your drive shaft height for the KT17 before I took it out, and then I matched this motor up with it, and then I moved it front to back to match a 140 based on the points cover. And then I took some measurements, and the 317 drive shaft adapter actually bolts up to this K361. However, it was too short. So what I did was I had Josh, when he had the motor, machine me to my specs an aluminum spacer, more or less, for the drive shaft. So that's behind the flywheel screen, and then I used a stock 317 drive shaft adapter, and then I used a factory 317 drive shaft. With that, I didn't really have to worry too much about anything being oddball parts, custom, anything like that. So no sense in complicating things. Once that was going, I basically had it all figured out, and I have about a 1/4 of an inch above this rocker box to close the hood. This is not what it normally looks like. I actually polished this. It's cast aluminum, so I sanded it down and polished it. Just because, why not? Heavy duty air cleaner, hour meter, looks like a 140 when you close the hood, but underneath is an 18 horse Kohler single cylinder. So it looks like a 140, but it has more horsepower with power steering, big gas tank, big wheels, As Birdman once said, big air tang. We haven't tested it yet. Obviously, it runs, drives, works well. I have not taken it to plow day, which is coming up, and the hope is to have it there. Like, comment, subscribe.